Today is Saturday, November 22nd. I have been having quite a few visions and downloads lately. Probably especially upon first waking, even if I go back to sleep, because it's maybe super, super early. But this morning, I don't know what time it was exactly, but perhaps it was around 4 something, but I woke up and I saw this. The best way I can describe it is it was like it was just, a picture, but it was like if you wanted to imagine like steel teeth, like something you would see in a movie or something, with like steel teeth like that fit together, like from the top and the bottom. It was this transversed like image at the top of my door. Like imagine like something steel or something like really bulky. It first showed itself with the straight flat part at the top, so it was like bolting, if you will, but it's just an image. It's like bolting the door. It's at the top edge across the door, and then it would transverse to the opposite, and the teeth would be pointing up, and it kept doing that over and over, like maybe 10 times. And I did think about in the Bible where it talks about like putting the blood like on the doorpost and things like that. But what I almost always know right away what the message is, but the message was my protection. Like I don't need to put any furniture in front of my door. I don't need to, even ask for it. I am so protected. And it was like just an image or a vision showing me like the strength. Like if it would be in the 3D, it would be something that you would have to see like I said, like either in a movie or in some, huge factory. Like the heavy dutiness of it, it was like out of this world. And it really was. That's what it was. It was out of this world. And the message is just showing me, because another thing, I've gotten a lot more insights in the last several weeks, but there had been a point where the domestic violence shelter lady had paid for just 3 nights here at the hotel, which is nothing when you're trying to leave abuse. And then she had kind of oddly, because she hadn't seemed to really care, and this is going back a number of months, but she had gotten hold of me and said they were going to pay for 3 more nights. Well, I thought that was just, she said, we wouldn't want you to think we don't care. Well, the insight I was given in the last probably 2 to 3 weeks, probably 2 weeks, was that those extra days were because they wanted to keep me here, because there are people who are part of this, including her. She doesn't live here at the hotel, but there are people who are part of this who work and live here or are staying here at the hotel, and they wanted me close to continue to keep trying to do the dark magic, to the death spells to try to kill me. But I know by now that they're all realizing, as I am increasingly so, I already knew I was protected, and I already knew I had broken through the matrix, and that I'm not going to be able to be killed by these people who are after me. Once I had conquered fear, that was the last thing I had to conquer. But I've just gotten more and more clarity of like, I've gotten names of people I was trusting. Like the taxi cab driver that I initially was brought here by. He had seemed so nice and caring and took me around to several places and wasn't even really charging me like extra to like find the better price, but it was all part of a larger setup. And so I can see that now. I know that there's a lot of things transpiring that, I mean, I have no concrete 3D evidence of, but I do know, and it's being revealed to me. Sometimes the downloads are so detailed and uncanny, like the things that I know, and I know that I'm being shown them by, if you want to say spirit or my guides, or however you want to say it, but there's no doubt in my mind the things that are transpiring. And like I've said before, like I might have some of the details wrong. Like Kix might be my half sister sharing a dad, or maybe she's not. Maybe she's an old childhood friend. But Alito and I have been mirroring this whole time, and we have, golden auras, or however, we have something special, more like a child, even though we're in our 40s, and we have been conspired against our whole lives to keep us from like discovering, self-actualizing, and coming into our full power, because I'm getting the feeling it's like a globally big, it's spirit is showing me increasingly so in the last number of weeks, like this is just such of great magnitude. When I was in jail, I got a download once, and it was really hard for me to imagine, but the download was that I wasn't just taking down the Mormons or the Mennonites and Church of Christ and others like that, but it's the taking down of all of Christianity. And more recent downloads have shown me it really is. It's the elite have been hiding. It's not just Christian, but in the Christian churches, like that's where the elites have been, quite openly thriving. There's tax breaks and there's all kinds of perks. A huge one is just being looked at by the public as really great, upstanding, good people, but looking back now on how many times I reached out for help and the kind of things I was being told, it's like it's just that having that clarity, it makes so much more sense now why probably one of the hardest things to really accept as true is that I was being abused on purpose, and he was hired. It was a setup the whole time. It's been a false marriage, and that I understood once I was in jail. So I mentioned it in a poem I wrote yesterday, but yesterday when I woke up in the morning, there was this image, like I could tell it's not a real spider, but there was like this image of a black widow, and usually the images are light in color, like blue or white, but this was like more like a shadow. This was like a black image. Even though the room was quite dark, it was still even darker. So I could definitely see it, and I could definitely see that spot in the front where it would show that it was a black widow, not just any spider, but it was a message of death, impending, already here for many, and impending death for many more. It's judgment. Judgment's here, and think I fell back asleep after that. Some of these are, in extremely odd hours of the early morning. And then there was a butterfly. A lot of times the visions come in, like I said, like a blue or white light. This was more of this blue light. And it was just a beautiful, relatively small, not always, but often in a cube, but it was like outlined in a square basically, and just a butterfly changing. And the message was change, like things were actually really picking up in like a 3D, like things were really transpiring, like fraudulent documents are being uncovered, and things that were done in times gone by my false husband or family, like in the courts where they had people within this system of the secret societies getting things hidden and done, through deceit, and getting like their backsides covered. Like now their backsides aren't covered. Now all that stuff is coming out, and judgment is here. And then on a spiritual level, because this is spiritual, it's spiritual first, but all the death spells, all the things that they've sent me, trying to place like on me, like suicide spells, and all of that is hitting them, which all of that is tied to different entities. And so it's basically like these people, they probably don't realize it at first, but when they join these groups and they get into this stuff, like they're trying to destiny swap, or they're trying to gain in some way fame or fortune. I know that Dale Miller wanted my spiritual gifts. He is a very dark, high-ranking warlock or high priest, but I'm a high priestess, and I'm here to like bring back humanity, because the things that are happening, it's like it's been revealed to me, and I've written poetry about it recently, but it's like, the idea of world peace would have seemed so far-fetched and so really out of reach, but when you realize what's happening and why there's such an unfair advantage, and that these people are literally feasting on humans. And I don't care if it's, quote, better than any sex or any drugs, because it's still wrong. And no, I wouldn't try it to be converted over, because you're selling your soul. And I'm not a Christian. I don't believe the Bible. The Bible is their book. But there is some truth in the Bible, because a book of all falsehood isn't going to be received as truth. It has to have some truth. But it doesn't matter if there is some, even a huge, significant, sensual pleasure in consuming human blood and being a cannibal. Like, it's still wrong. It's not okay for some people to, like, and when I write about it in my poetry, I liken it to, like stealing the sunshine. Like, if you've seen like an exuberant little toddler with so much life and so much, maybe they're outside and they're just so curious, like to steal that from people so that adults can live, as like the next megastar, actor, actress, rapper. Like, does the world still want to follow if they would know their favorite artist has that, quote, talent by siphoning and stealing literally the sunshine of boys and girls, of infants and adults like myself and Alito who have this star quality that doesn't, like a big energy that doesn't go away, even though we're grown. But that's less, that's more seldom, more rare than children naturally. And that's what the schools, they're like, it's a huge part of just kind of crushing the curiosity and the natural zest for life. And I know, even with songs that I might still sing, I'm more mindful now of even boastful names like Babyface. Like, I know that's an expression, we might say someone has a baby face, but even there was a man who was when I was working at Love's, and I commented that he was pretty, like very pretty for a man, but like I knew instantly like what his prettiness was from. Like he consumes the blood of children. And you can see it. I can see it. You can't always see it, but I can see it on certain people's faces. It's like this look of a child through like the cheekbone. Like if you were going to draw a circle, if you drew a circle around like, under the eyes and kind of that middle part of the face, it's like there's a childlike look. And I look youthful for my age, but mine is natural, and I've reclaimed what they've stolen. But it's like when you realize that people are feasting on humanity to get, riches, acclaim, fortune, fame, like it's not okay. And it really is enslaving the rest of humanity, the ones that aren't actually slaughtered but are, just living under fear, stuck in dead-end jobs, limiting belief systems. All of this is just a heavy indoctrination. And then when you put like your energy or your like you look up to these particular icons, right? These, whether it's political leaders or people in the music industry or actors or whatever it is, you look up and you almost like idolize them. And so then you're feeding them even more energy. And it's just kind of like this system. And it's been in place for a long time. But like, to think back that every friend I ever thought I had was actually a cannibal and a dark witch or a warlock of some sort on my family. And my children's dad, Tracy, he's definitely possessed. He's been possessed. And any aspect of him that was able to seem normal or kind, like that was all my persona that he was able to kind of cloak himself in. I know that he is a serial rapist and a serial murderer. I know that he has molested, raped many of my children, all of my grown children who have gone on to continue that. And that's what this is. It's like these people are molested and then they become the molester. And I was molested by very many, but never succumbed to even spells put on me to try to get me to inappropriately touch my children and things like that. And I just fought that. And I knew that those, quote, thoughts weren't mine. They were outside of me. And especially when you don't believe in magic, because I really wouldn't have believed these things were possible. And I really wouldn't have, when I was a Christian, I really wouldn't have believed or known anything about like people traveling like into the astral realm and like it really is like rape. And that by doing that, they're able to like manifest off your sacral energy, which is what this is about. This is about people, like even though I'm still alive, these people, these family members and stuff, they've been able to like manifest, things that they didn't deserve or earn. They haven't done the work. They haven't looked at their shadow. They haven't, and many of them are not able at this point. They have made pacts with entities that are dark, that are, demonic, if you will, for lack of a better word, and traded, what they could have had on their own. And that's what this is. It's human trafficking, it's slavery. And what could be worse than human trafficking and human massacre when you're not even aware, you don't even know what's happening, and you trust people that are, you think the bad guys are out there somewhere in a foreign land in some backwood bush country. Those are the people who do voodoo, or something like that. But it's the person sleeping beside you. And even thinking of movies like Sleeping with the Enemy, like really the kind of things that's really going on is nothing compared, like the movie Sleeping with the Enemy, for example. Like that's more like child's play. This is some crazy stuff, and it's coming out. Everything that's been done to me, I'm 47, everything that's been done to me since birth is coming out, and it's gonna like completely, it's gonna be horrific on one level for the public to, and myself, to hear the truth and how awful it is. But it's going to open up so many eyes to understand like what's really going on here, because the Bible has had such a stronghold. Even people who don't even consider themselves religious still often in our society esteem certain aspects of the Bible, the kinder sayings that seem to be, beautiful or loving. But what I've come to realize is that their God is, if you want to say Satan, it's different than Satan and Jesus, and it's different than like a single being. But their God is what the Bible is. Like following the Bible is a trap, and we're not supposed to be anybody's sacrifice, certainly not daily. But it just puts you in a place of like being paralyzed so that these people can use dark magic and hexes and things like traveling the astral realm, finding you, and you're just wide open for their use. And that's what's going on with the mental health. Like this whole, like when people have a quote mental health illness, like they're just being fed on and in major ways, and that's what depression is. But even when you get into things that would be more like, so like, then there's the real sociopath, which is like my false husband, Tracy, right? So he is a sociopath. He is a and that's what's going on. It's like, that's what these people are, who slaughter humans and drink their blood and eat and have sex with even dead, let alone being pedophiles, but they have sex with the dead. I mean, they're so demented they might keep a body and, have sex with it later. Like, it's like the darkest kind of thing you could ever even imagine, and it's happening on a huge mega scale. And when the things that have been done to me and those groups come down and people are able to see at what lengths were gone to stop one sun from shining, to steal that sunlight, if you will, then it's going to start making a lot of sense what's going on. And as people reclaim their individual personal power and personhood and no longer accept something like a diagnosis of a quote mental illness and just go on in that, oh, I'm just whatever, I'm this, and just kind of subscribe to that and stay in that mindset and in that way. Because the real sociopaths and loonies are these people that are literally slaying humanity. That's what's going on. So I didn't seek out to become some world leader or deem myself so spiritual or so great or anything like that, but this is something that's been chosen for me by something, forces outside of this world, and they're here. I woke up a couple nights ago just for a few seconds, and there'll be this star, almost like in those coloring books for adults where you have these really pretty intricate designs, very geometrical, very proportioned, and very beautiful, shining in a light blue light on the ceiling. Really, really intricate. And what I did think about when I saw that was, because usually it's nothing is the same, it's always something slightly different. And these are, I think, just ways that the spirit world is communicating with me to get a message across. But I thought of the star in the Bible, because the Bible is not true, but the star that they saw telling of his birth. And I was just thinking that my star is shining, and then with the lock, like I said, with the teethed huge bulky lock thing this morning, on the door, I know I'm protected, and it is something outside of this world or within this world, but on a spiritual level, it's more than what can be seen, but they give me things I can see too, to cast out any doubt I might have from time to time. And it's all about personal empowerment, because letting go of the Bible was the way that I found true healing and health. And even when I didn't understand half of what I understand now, and Spirit keeps preparing me, there's nudges of buckle up, this is bigger than you're even speculating. This is bigger, it's bigger than you think. And I'm really getting the impression lately that it's worldwide. It's not just America. It's certainly not just Virginia. And the reason I'm being entrusted with such a large role, whatever you want to say the role is because of my purity of heart, because the truth and love matter, because I want, whereas these people are gatekeeping unless you join their quote club and also become a cannibal to feast off of others, and then by and large what you're doing is trading your own soul for that. But I think many don't realize that until it's too late. But I would never gatekeep and just I can never go on knowing these things and not share them, even before I knew my protection. I was willing, if you look at the videos with me in the hotel when I was being hunted by many armed people, right, before I went to jail. I wasn't willing, even for my life, to just sit on what I was uncovering and just be okay with it. And I'm certainly not willing to join them and go along. I don't care what, quote, pleasure. I'm sure there is something pleasurable, because it's so sick. There would have to be, for people to even be willing to keep doing it, you know? And I personally don't think that when faced with the choice to know that, like, your favorite movie star, your favorite rapper, or whatever it is, that he or she has gotten to that height of success off the backsides, literally, of consuming humanity, that, you know, once faced with that truth, which is a terror of a truth to have to face, but once faced with that truth, I don't think the public, by and large, will accept that. I don't think that people would be okay with that, and I'm not. And we shouldn't be. And I'm under the very solid conviction at this point that world peace is attainable. This is the key. Uncovering this, and this being, like, uprooted from the world, is the key to, like, regaining humanity, because life isn't supposed to be lived, like, so that you can look forward to turning 55 or 60 and having a few years that you can, you know, go on a cruise or enjoy something, like. And I mean, I've been knowing that for a long time, as far as even just with school and children, which is why I had homeschooled, but it goes so much deeper than that. But, like, we're not supposed to, like, not be able to enjoy being outside, the sun shining. Our days aren't supposed to be so jam-packed with busyness and things we have to go here and there, and especially thinking of children being in school all day, but with adults too, like, where you get up and you got to make it here, you've got to make it to work, or you've got to make it to school by this time, and then you're there all day. You're there the whole, like, you know, prime part where the sun is shining. You're indoors. And you're, like, trapped indoors. And even, there's things even scientifically where we know, like, you know, as far as, I want to say endorphins, but maybe that's not the right word, but, you know, as far as, like, sleep, the quality sleep, like, we need darkness for sleep, right? But we need not fluorescent lights. Those are not bringing health. You know, the sun has been villainized, and even though there might be things like skin cancer, like, it's not what we're being told. And the sun is a disk, and the moon is a disk, and this is a fixed system here. It's more like a snow globe, and we've never landed on the moon, and all of that's a big hoax. And everything that we need, like bliss and heaven, are meant for here. It's not later. And basically, the earth has been under such a brainwashing and such a, like, massacre, stealing of humanity, and not being hidden, and just, like, a whole huge war that even people who have seen certain things but didn't realize, because how could you know what was going on? Because it's so crazy. So you're not fighting, even when you're trying to fight certain aspects, like maybe you have the conviction that your children don't need to be in school, and that real education comes from within, and it's more about discovering. You still are, you know, like myself, falling victim to having people, like, live off your sacral energy and able to tap into you like you're a freaking battery. Anyway, been revealed to me that Tracy is he's been, and this is not just him, but for example, he's been someone who's been raping people like the kind of person that would catch someone on a trail somewhere, like when someone's hiking or something, and just take them and kill them and rape them. That's who he is. And I believe Kix is his real wife, and I could be wrong on that. I think that's who it is. She might be my old friend Jennifer Monk. I'm not sure, and some of those details I might not have right, but my old childhood friend. But all I know is that the cult ties and all that, it doesn't matter if it's Mormon or Mennonite or Baptist or not religious. Like, these secret societies have kind of like their hands in everything, and they've been monopolizing and ruling through their corrupt ties, like where there isn't justice, even in the quote justice system. Of course, many of us know that. Many of us who are awakened to certain levels of things have known there's not truly justice in the justice system, but there is going to be for me, despite the system, because my guides, if necessary, are body jumping, meaning they're going into the body of the said judge or the magistrate or whatever, and they're rectifying things, and there's a spiritual court taking place already and judgment. Many people have died, and I would have been someone who wouldn't have believed that one life was like worth more than another, but it's been revealed to me that, and I don't say this in pride in the least bit, but it's been revealed to me that my life is worth more than. There's been a lot of people, even the people who killed themselves that night that I was in the hotel. I can hardly relay like how much that sunk in of the magnitude of what was going on, because why would, whether it was 6 people or 8 people, why would 6 people, let's say the lesser number, why would 6 people kill themselves because they can't kill me? Like, that really showed me like the magnitude. And then when I was in jail and had just so many months to really think about things, and I know Spirit was giving me more and more understanding, not all at once to overwhelm, but I realized pretty quickly the marriage was false. Just knowing what I know about the Mormons on a surface level, with can't think of the word right now. The opposite of monogamy, where you have the multiple wives. Can't think of the word right now, but I realized pretty quickly, okay, like, even though he would never have said he's ever been Mormon, but the thing is it doesn't matter. It's all the same. Mason, Eastern Star, and then into all the different denominations. Like, it's all the same. And when there's been some kind of sex scandal that's come out, like Doug Phillips and the homeschooling movement years ago had a big scandal, and he was sleeping with the teenage live-in nanny, but he had a wife and all these other kids. Those, I believe, are fake. Those are like fake stories. Or like, what's the one family that had the Duggars, and like there was, the adult son was like molesting some of the children, and the parents were horrified, but they're in the political anything with political stuff, like it's really, really corrupt, but that's fake. So like, there's enough things that happen. Like, I don't have a lot of first-hand knowledge with the Catholic Church, but like in the Catholic Church, we hear people report and people say, oh, like, I was molested by my whether it's a pope or whether it's just like a priest or whatever, right? There's a lot of that. But like, the things that make their way into the media are false reports. That they are like, they're almost like showing a handmade stitch, like on a quilt. Sometimes you can have a machine made machine sewn quilt, like that someone makes at home, or with a quilt, as with a quilt team, right? Machine quilted, but then you have like some hand stitching you do on top. So basically, like when those kind of things come to the media, it's like showing the hand stitching when there's this whole huge mass made thing going on. And so it's enough to make certain people leery of, let's say, Christianity, even though it goes beyond Christianity. And so those people might become atheist, and they might just like turn against anything spiritual. But the truth is that there is something spiritual in Christianity and Judaism and all of its faults. But there is a true. But the corruption that's seen, like I'm giving these examples, that's false. That is just a tossing of a bone so that, you know, it plays on fear, and like I said, it causes certain people to draw back from, let's say, religion and become atheists, and then they don't believe in spiritual stuff altogether. And then as much as they might be spirit might be trying to communicate to them on some level, they're closed to it, and they just almost block out possibly their intuition, because our intuition is really spirit like speaking to us. And it's not about being controlled like the Holy Spirit, the way the Bible would talk about, like the Holy Spirit living in you. It's not about control. I said in a poem recently, like I don't really pray, like I don't think of it as praying. I do talk to these spiritual beings, and a lot of the talking is within my own inner dialogue. And I think for humanity to realize that in the dialogue, and maybe I have more dialogue than most people, because some people aren't deep thinkers, but that's where we're attacked by dark entities, and that's where we're given awareness by entities that are light, which I just say spirit, but spiritual guides, or, like not all ancestors would be good. And everything isn't about being love and light either, because it's not that we're not willing to stand up for truth. And actually, one thing that drew me to the Mennonites was being more of a pacifist. And I'm not someone who's ever owned a gun, even though I feel people should be able to own a gun. I don't need to. I know that now. But it's not about being a pacifist, but think about when the pacifists are actually the ones that are murdering and like doing these horrific things. Like, it's just all these illusions are coming down, and humanity, it's almost like humanity has been taken over by an insidious imposter group. And I don't know whether these imposters have half of our species or a fourth, but it's a large amount. And once they die off and we realize what's been going on, like, I would go so far now to believe a utopia of sorts is possible in what we're meant for. And people are going to have to like wake up to, like there will be many atheists waking up and having to acknowledge, because people who want to know the truth will have to humble themselves in ways that have gone against what they have held onto for a long time, whether they're religionists like I was or whether they're atheists. Because it's kind of like neither either or. It's something different than that. And some people, I think, get more understanding outside of themselves, and then inner connectings make sense. like when you really get an epiphany. I tend to be the kind who gets more of like the knowing. I just know, or get the epiphanies, and then the outer manifestations show themselves. So like right now at this point, I don't have a whole lot on outer manifestations proving anything to me, and yet my dreams and my visions and me making these recordings, so that they're almost going to be like evidences of, you know, the spiritual nature and power, as proofs for the whole world to realize, like, oh, how did she know that, or why would she have had this dream about this, or, you know, and then when they find out all that's been done to me to stop me, and then I'm still alive, like, you know, if you don't believe in miracles, you'll have to. I mean, you'll have a choice, but all I know is everything that's about control is not the right way, and personal empowerment and integrity lead to like abundance. And it's not that you're seeking for abundance like, oh, I want to be rich. It's like we're all meant to be rich, and then these people have been stealing our wealth, because wealth is not just about money. It's about even just being able to enjoy the breeze outside and the smell of some flowers and picking some wild blueberries, or just the most simple things. Life is not supposed to be humdrum, and all of that leads to, you know, despair on, you know, varying levels. And my story is going to be used to like help humanity to kind of like recenter back to, and I'm only one of, there's like many pieces and many players, but I am an important part of this, and I would have never known. I could never have guessed this was the reality, because everyone in my life has been a handler to try to make me not feel even the least bit of value, even value I knew I had. Or when I looked in the mirror, I would even tell myself like, well, I think you're pretty. I don't know why everyone acts like you're so ugly, or, you know, I remember thinking things like that quite often, and now I know that it was done on purpose. So now I feel like I'm rambling, so I think I'll be done. All right.